Welcome to 5 at 5 once again, and my two camera people, my two colleagues are, kicking each other. That's what was going on behind the cameras, so I got a little distracted. And that word was used with a lot of consciousness, distracted, because that's what the Australian media has been up to. Trying to distract the Indians, trying to rile them up, trying to provoke them. In my 25 to 30 years of covering cricket, I've seen this far too many times with the Australians. Far too many times. Today what happened, and we have visuals to prove this. The last couple of days the Indians have been training here at the MCG. But behind me are the practice areas right there. So what happened was two sets of wickets. One towards the front, and the moment you see, and I think our back-end team will have visuals for all of it, we've taken loads. You will see green wickets, green with plenty of grass, and you can understand fast bowlers will have a lot of assistance, train properly. Behind those are some wickets which look as brown as this, as brown as this. Look at this, as brown. And you can understand that you will get no assistance whatsoever. These are kind of white ball pitches. When India was training the last 2 days, they were given those pitches which are the white ball wickets. Or rather the white ball wickets, akin to the white ball wickets. So the ball wasn't going up, there was no grass, ball not bouncing. Akashdeep in fact even made a reference to it when he met the media the other day. Come Australian practice, and today was the first day because the Australian team assembled on the 22nd. 23rd was the first day the Australians practiced, and they were given the green wickets. Now is this conscious? No one can prove it. You can say it's a happy coincidence. You can say it was deliberate, you can say no, or you know what, but what proof do you have? Nobody can prove it. Nobody can. But the coincidences are increasing as the series is getting more and more intense. Had it been 3-0 by now, I can bet my bottom dollar, there would be no coincidence. All coincidences would go out of the window. In Brisbane, what happened? Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood went to train somewhere else. The Indian media was not even informed. Look at the other side, Ravindra Jadeja does not answer in English. Akashdeep Singh does not answer questions in English. Today, during the practice, we could see the Channel 7 reporter going and asking people, trying to take vox pops. Arey, India is refusing to answer questions in English, what do you have to say? Really? You mean really? Indians are refusing to answer questions in English? This is a pattern now. The series is no longer, and I keep saying this series is no longer a cricket series. Let me take you back to 2007-8 during Monkey Gate. I started here, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, and thereafter the series became more and more intense. Australia won this. Sydney became 2-0 because of that amazing, 3 days of intense cricket culminating with Monkey Gate. And from there on it was crazy. At one point the ICC match referee had to be removed. Ranjan Madugale had to be flown in. The intensity was such that Mike Proctor had to go because the Indians lost faith. Peter Roebuck at that point in time wrote an article, Ricky Ponting has to be removed as captain of Australia. The intensity kept mounting. Pat Cummins has a very good image. But has Pat Cummins at any point in time said a word about Mohammad Siraj getting booed? No. Do you expect Pat Cummins to say a word about Mohammad Siraj getting booed? Nope. So there are patterns. There are patterns that you can identify. The pitch issue is the latest in that pattern. Australia being given wickets to train which are conducive to fast bowling, which will be like what you get at the MCG on Boxing Day, and India being given wickets which are fundamentally different. This is becoming a bit of a pattern here, I have to say. Will the Indians protest? What impact could this have on the Indian psyche? The media match that was scheduled between the Australian media and the Indian media has been cancelled because the Indian media did not feel like playing after all that is transpired over the last few days. So clearly, as I said, Australia is the new Pakistan. The impact that I see, this Indian team is made of stern stuff. Rohit Sharma mentally is a tough guy. He knows he's out of form, he knows he needs runs, he knows that as captain he's not delivered yet. He knows that he's due. And if he's able to do it, that will be the best riposte. the best riposte for the Australians, the best riposte for the media, the best riposte for everyone, Virat Kohli. That unnecessary incident outside the airport. Where does private begin and public end? Where does ethicality start? Is there something called ethics? I'm not stopping you from filming me. I'm requesting you from filming my children. How is that unethical? How is that a problem? How is that a problem by any stretch of imagination? And then to go and ask the general Australian public, who have all come here to watch practice, that the Indians are refusing to talk in English. How is that fair cricket reporting? And when their cricket reporters are back, off camera, they tell us what happened was wrong. But can they call it on camera? No, they can't. Because how can you go against the mandate or the diktat of your own platform? We've seen all of this over the last few days, haven't we? We've seen Australia do it quite nicely. We see the intensity growing. We see the build-up happening now. We observe that this series is getting more and more and more intense. What's the next one that's coming? We've seen pot shots at Kohli. We've seen pot shots at Jadeja. We've seen pot shots at Akashdeep Singh. Who's the next in line? Will it be Captain Rohit Sharma who addresses the media tomorrow? What will they say tomorrow? Oh, Rohit did not entertain as many Australian media questions as we expected him to do. Oh, Rohit did not answer to our liking. What's next, Australian media? All of us wonder. But there is a difference. There is a difference because the Indian media is also out here in large numbers. Yes, there are some turncoats, but leave them aside. The Indian media here is in large numbers and they are prepared to give it back. This is a no-holds-barred series now. The daggers have been drawn. I've been covering cricket for a good 3 decades, and I love the spice of India versus Australia. Absolutely love it. 250,000 people expected here at the MCG over 5 days. The second most watched cricket match here at the G in 100 odd years. 300,000 during Sir Donald Bradman, 250,000 now. So you can understand what this test match means for the Australian summer. In every sense, it is all set up. 2 more days. The countdown has started. 48 hours to the first ball being bowled. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day and Boxing Day. That's what it is. The Indian captain will address the media tomorrow. India's final practice session will be here at the MCG tomorrow. And that practice session will give us an idea as to what the Indian team will be about. Will there be changes? Will there be no changes? Chances are that there will not be much change at all. And there's one bowler who the Indians will have to watch out for. He made his debut here, 6 for 7 Ashes, Scott Boland. Scott Boland and our 2 colleagues, Gargi and Trisha, did an extensive analysis of Scott Boland and how he was practicing with the cones. After I finish, I'll leave you with that story because Scott Boland will be a threat for India. As far as I'm concerned, the last 2 points. 1, if I was Rohit Sharma, I'd tell myself that during the T20 World Cup which he won as captain, everybody had questioned him. A horrific IPL, a forgettable IPL, and all guns were treading on Rohit Sharma. He goes to the Caribbean and takes Mitchell Starc apart. A 40-ball 90 set up an Indian victory of humongous proportions. And that resulted eventually in India winning that trophy, courtesy led by Rohit Sharma, the skipper. Cub Virat Kohli in that final against South Africa scored that amazing 70 plus. It's time for the big boys. The big stage asks for the big boys to stand up. Turn the clock back. Know that they are not in form, so shed the cautiousness. Leave the optimism, leave the extra caution for the first 30 runs aside. Take yourselves back to what you did when you were a youngster, when your mind wasn't cluttered. Go back to that consciousness which is no longer dependent on 20 years of fame. Treat it as if you're a rookie making your mark. The Boxing Day amphitheater is all set. This is theater, ladies and gentlemen, of the highest standard. 100,000 people at the MCG shouting their lungs out as the first ball is bowled, and there's Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. The most individual of all team sports with their bat as two gladiators, they need to set it up. They will be up against Scott Boland. A threat for sure. As I said, Gargi and Trisha have broken it down. I toss to that story with a promise to come back for India practice tomorrow. Every story from here in Melbourne, on the Border Gavaskar Trophy, on the Rev Sports platform. There are 8-9 of us here, so we break down every little nuance, every little story, every little piece for you. Thank you very much for watching. Here's Gargi and Trisha on Scott Boland.
Hello and welcome to Rev Sports. We've just witnessed the Australian Nets, and one of the most interesting parts, apart from Sam Constance coming in and batting for a while, Mitchell Marsh batting as well, and of course Mitchell Starc bowling half a run up, but still he was there. But one of the most interesting points was obviously Scott Boland, who is coming in for this test after completely collapsing the Indian team at the pink ball test. But right now what he's done is especially, let me introduce ourselves. I am Gargi Raut and with me is Trisha Ghoshal, and we're in front of the MCG of course. But coming back to Scott Boland, he's been preparing to run through the Indian batting lineup once again, because he's bowling at one singular spot over and over again. He's got a marker at the block hole and he's constantly bowling in that channel, and surely he's going to be one of the threats for the Indian team.
Absolutely. I think because the Australian pace bowling lineup is so good, Mitchell Starc, Josh Hazlewood, we generally don't talk about Scott Boland. And for him, this, of course, is his home ground. What a beautiful opportunity for him. And also, look at the place where we are standing. They are actually practicing right opposite Dennis Lilly's statue, which... Come on, Dennis Lilly has been Australia's best pace bowler that they have ever produced. And I think he has drawn some inspiration. His main concentration was the block hole. But apart from that, we could clearly see that he was trying to bowl at that good length and corridor of uncertainty. So he's coming fully prepared, Gargi.
And that's where sort of India has been struggling when you look at the Indian batters. But when you talk about, because you brought up MCG and Scott Boland, the connection there, he's made his debut here. He was 6 for how much? 6 wickets on his debut in the Ashes Test series. So when you look at these things, Scott Boland knows the MCG like the back of his hand. Will that be a very, an advantage for Scott Boland and maybe a possible threat for India?
Absolutely. I think Scott Boland, in fact, has picked up a number of wickets every time that he has come out to bowl, and MCG being his home ground, as you said, he would know the conditions perfectly well. So India have to be wary of him, because at times what happens, bowlers like Scott Boland go under the radar. When you have names like a Mitchell Starc, you're concentrating on someone like Starc, and that is where India has to be a little wary of Boland. In fact, if I go one step ahead, I will say in this test match, probably Boland, somewhere to me it seems, is a bigger threat than someone like a Mitchell Starc.
Wow, big words coming from Trisha over there, but I think you're right. You're right, because when you think of Scott Boland and you think of the pink ball test as well, you can clearly tell that he was being incredibly consistent, and that's what he's still practicing. He's practicing on that consistency, and isn't that what Test cricket is all about? When you talk about Test cricket bowling, consistency is what gets the batters, completely frustrated. That's what gets a Travis Head frustrated, a Steve Smith frustrated. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that much from the Indian bowlers. Hopefully, we get to see that at the MCG. But when you talk about the other bowlers as well, let's talk about Mitchell Marsh a little bit, because not really any contributions with the bat. Bowling, he's been very sparse with that as well. Where do you see this happening? Because I was at the Boo Webster press conference as well. He was asked about what he thinks of his chances in the playing 11. He wasn't that sure. So what do you think?
Mitchell Marsh, we did see him batting in the nets, and I saw him a bit phased I'm taking it from Constas, but in a different way. He said he's unfazed, but I saw him a little phased against the bouncer as well. So that's an interesting part. I think Mitchell Marsh is under pressure to perform because he hasn't really contributed anything to Australian, so far in the test series. You cannot really think of what has Mitchell Marsh really contributed. So he will be definitely under pressure. And I hope, like our mic has just twisted, I hope Boland is not able to twist the wickets against Indian batters. But yes, Mitchell Marsh so far has been a little bit of an easy wicket for India. And when I say easy wicket, I'm not taking anything away from what he can do. But yes, he hasn't really done anything much.
And to wrap it off, I was at the Sam Constas press conference as well. We've spoken about it in our lives, but if you've missed that, Sam Constas very confident about his chances. Obviously, he said that when he was asked about what he thinks of batting against someone like a Jasprit Bumrah or an Indian batting lineup, he says, it's just another day for me. So, that's quite interesting, and that's going to be a battle to watch out for, because if not, I think there are going to be a lot of people who will pick on Sam Constas for what he said today at the press conference. But on that note, thank you so much for joining. We'll be bringing you lots more from the MCG.